Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to the FCS Football channel, and today we are talking about my defensive midfield priorities or targets. That's the better word, targets. Now, of course, we've already made 2 signings this summer. Well, technically 3. Tom Heaton, Jadon Sancho and Rafael Varane. Obviously with Varane, we're just waiting to see him holding up the shirt. And that means we should turn our attentions to the glaring issue in our team. The position I said was more important than a centre-back coming into this window, and that is defensive midfield. For me, that is, you need a top defensive midfielder if you want to go and win Premier League titles. Look at Manchester City, Rodri and Fernandinho. Look at Liverpool. They started really competing and getting to this high level when they got Fabinho in. You need a top defensive midfielder, and Manchester United don't have that. We have Nemanja Matic, who, when he's able to play, when he's at his best, is fantastic. But we can't rely on him anymore. We saw that last season, that Nemanja Matic can't play every game. And if he can, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just doesn't rate him anymore. So we do need a defensive midfielder. And I'm here to show what my 2 top targets would be. Some honourable mentions, and what I think we probably will do if we do any. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, my top target would be Leicester's Wilfred Ndidi. Now, look, if you've been on this channel for a long time, you would know how much I adore Wilfred Ndidi. He is absolutely brilliant, and I think he will suit Manchester United to the ground. Now, Ndidi is used to playing as part of a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1. Both formations are something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have used under his time at Manchester United. Of course, last season and majority of his time here at Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has used that 4-2-3-1 with either Pogba and Matic or McTominay and Fred. But coming into this season and right at the start of his time at Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did use a 4-3-3. At the start, it was a Matic and DM and a box-to-box with Herrera and then Pogba on that left-hand side of a 3. And like I said, there was rumours coming into this season that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would look to go back to that system. And so the fact that Wilfred Ndidi can play in both systems is a great help straight off the back. Now let's talk numbers. Wilfred Ndidi, look, his defensive numbers are absolutely elite. Ndidi manages 9.4 ball recoveries a game, 4 tackles and 2.6 interceptions per 90, which is utterly elite. For comparison, Manchester City's Rodri averages 2.4 tackles a game, 1.2 interceptions per game, and the same 9.4 ball recoveries. So over the 3 categories, Wilfred Ndidi betters the Spaniard. He's unbelievable defensively, and that is what Manchester United are calling out for. A defensive midfielder that will sit there and defend and let Paul Pogba, let Bruno Fernandes do what they do best. Now, undoubtedly, Wilfred Ndidi's weak point is his on the ball and dribbling. He only has a success rate of 53%. That's dribble accuracy or take on accuracy, which isn't great, especially compared to other players on this list. However, look, while he does lose the ball 10.4 times a game, Rodri loses it 10.1. And look, it's not ideal, but I think with a better team, and as he grows, of course, he is still young at 24. He will still get better on the ball. And with better players around him, I think that will only go up. He has a chance creation of about 0.7 per 90, which, again, it's not brilliant, but it's definitely not too bad, especially for a defensive midfielder. Now, according to F-Brief, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, look, Ndidi ranks as one of the best defensive midfielders, especially defensively. For pressures, he's ranked in the 72nd percentile, 99th for tackles and blocks, 98th for interceptions, 97th for clearances, 85th for aerial drills. I think that says it all, doesn't it? He is elite defensively. He really is. Of course, like I said, going forward and on the ball and dribbling is not his strong point. And again, F-Brief suggests that with his passing completion being in the 81st percentile with an 88% pass completion. The 7th percentile for progressive passes, 6th for progressive carries, 29th for shot creating actions, and 16th for dribbles completed. So again, on the ball, he's not great. However, I don't see this as a big issue because Paul Pogba, for the things that I've just mentioned that he is poor at, Ndidi, Paul Pogba excels at. Paul Pogba's dribbling is unbelievable. He's so progressive on the ball, both carrying it and on the ball, that it doesn't really matter that Ndidi is so poor, because as long as Ndidi can find a Paul Pogba or a Bruno Fernandes who's equally as brilliant at it, we're going to be all right. We have such amazing talent around that team for progression. Luke Shaw's fantastic at it, as is Rashford. Like I said, Bruno is. That you have players around Ndidi that you can just get Ndidi to give it to them, and they can do it, and he can do his job of defending and covering for Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes and whoever is going forward, and just being a barrier. Furthermore, Ndidi, of course, is a Leicester City player, and he plays with Youri Tielemans. Tielemans is very similar, while obviously not at the level of Paul Pogba, but his flaws are similar to Pogba's. Ndidi knows this job and has done this job absolutely at the top level for Leicester for a long, long time. And I think he comes in to this Manchester United defensive midfield spot and just works straight away. The issue for Ndidi, for me, comes with his price. Transfermarkt has him valued at around £54 million. However, you are going to be paying closer to 90 million to get him away from Leicester, simply because A, Leicester don't want to sell him, B, Leicester don't have to sell him, and C, everyone knows Manchester United have a lot of money. And realistically, at this point, Leicester City are a competitor for Manchester United. Manchester United and Leicester both have the same ambitions to win Premier Leagues, to try and get Champions League football every single year. So you don't want to sell to a rival, do you? So that again puts more money on the table if we want to get him. But I mean, like I said, for me, Wilfred Ndidi would be priority number one. If you can get him, absolutely brilliant. Going on to our second player, and that is West Ham's Declan Rice. While Declan Rice isn't as great as Ndidi defensively, Declan Rice is certainly a more well-rounded defensive midfielder. Declan Rice averages about 1.9 interceptions and tackles per 90 and about 7.3 ball recoveries per 90 in the Premier League last season, which is, of course, it's okay. It's well, in fact, it is very good. But it's not on the elite numbers and elite level of a Wilfred Ndidi. His dribbling success is slightly better at about 85%, with a chance creation of 0.8, so slightly more creative than Wilfred Ndidi, but not by miles. It's not something you can really say Declan Rice is certainly better at. And look, this will be something we get into later. Declan Rice kind of has to create more because of the team. But again, we'll get to that sort of stuff later. Furthermore, Declan Rice only loses the ball about 8.4 times a game, which is about 20% less than Rodri and Ndidi. And while 8.4 might sound a lot to some of you, and some of you it might not, it's better than 10, isn't it? So, in that sense, Declan Rice is an upgrade on Wilfred Ndidi. Moving on to what FBref has to say, Declan Rice ranks in the 22nd percentile for pressures, 61st for tackles and blocks, 64th for interceptions, 56th for clearances, 68th for aerial duels. So in this perspective, of course, Wilfred Ndidi does rank supreme. He's ranked higher for pretty much every single, if not all of them, percentiles. However, this is when we then move to dribbling and passing and just on the ball performance, and this is where Declan Rice comes into his element, and this is where what I mean by he's a more well-rounded player. Declan Rice's pass completion is 86%, putting him in the 66th percentile, which I believe is slightly lower than Ndidi's, which it is. However, you'll quickly see why. Progressive passes in the 22nd percentile, progressive carries 75th, shot creating actions 38th, and dribbles completed 66. So he's doing more with the ball. So he's trying more stuff. So of course, when you try more difficult things, your pass completion will progressively get slightly smaller because you're doing harder stuff. Of course, the simplest way to put it really is if you try a 2-yard pass 10 times a game, chances are you're going to have 100% pass completion. Whereas if you're trying the 8 times out of 10, you're doing the short ball, but then you try and one long over the top ball to split a defence open, chances are you're not going to have a 100% pass completion because you're simply trying to do more and harder things. Furthermore, of course, Declan Rice and his team doesn't help him in certain attributes, and neither does Ndidi's, of course. For example, Declan Rice's pressures percentile is only 22, which isn't great. But however, West Ham statistically, according to FBrief, which I believe they get their stats from StatBomb, has West Ham as the 4th worst pressing side in the Premier League last season. So of course Declan Rice's pressing numbers are going to be down if West Ham as a team aren't great pressers. Furthermore, like I was saying, Declan Rice in his team has to do more because of the team around him. He doesn't have a Yuri Tielemans. So some of the on the ball and passing stats, where you got stuff like progressive passes, Declan Rice kind of has to do that a little bit more because he doesn't have a Yuri Tielemans who, for Leicester, is elite at doing them sort of jobs. So, of course, when these two players are put into the Manchester United team, these stats will slightly change, and you might see Ndidi's numbers go up, or you might see Declan Rice's numbers go up, or slightly down in some areas and aspects. When it comes to Declan Rice, again, look, he's an absolutely fantastic player, and would I take him? Absolutely. I don't think he fits as well with Paul Pogba, but I think, don't get me wrong, I think that partnership would be absolutely perfect still. But I think we're going to have the same sort of problem with Declan Rice as with Ndidi, and that is the price. Transfermarkt has his value at around £63 million. However, once again, West Ham will want close to £90 million because, again, West Ham just got European football. Declan Rice is their best player there. Well, is soon to be their club captain when Mark Noble leaves at the end of next season. They don't want to get rid of him. He's come through their academy. He's one of their own. He's going to be hard to get away from West Ham. And look, maybe we have a bargain until on Jesse Lingard. I don't know. But again, he would be a fantastic, fantastic player. And then moving into what I believe is the most realistic signing, and that is Eduard Kamavinga. Kamavinga is just 18 years old, and look, he's fantastic. He's one of the most exciting prospects coming through world football at the moment. He's already played for France. He's fantastic. When it comes to Kamavinga, he's a player at such a young age that can be moulded into a defensive midfielder or a more box-to-box player, similar to maybe what a Pogba is. Kamavinga's numbers at the moment and at present from last season ranks more towards a box-to-box for me. However, he has played as a defensive midfielder, and some of his numbers here and there suggest that he could quite easily be a defensive midfielder. Kamavinga's passing completion ranks at an 89%, or is in the 89th percentile. Progressive passes in the 42nd percentile. His progressive carries is 87th. Progressive passes received is 82nd. So these stats lends him to being more of a box-to-box player, getting the ball, wanting to progress forward, and especially that progressive pass received, meaning he's higher up the pitch and he's getting the ball from what is more of a defensive midfielder and getting there closer to the box. And that's more of a box-to-box role. However, things like his dribbles completed being in the 95th percentile also lends himself to being a box-to-box midfielder, looking for someone to try and beat a man with the ball. Of course, that is important for a defensive midfielder, but for a box-to-box, I think it is slightly more because obviously you're trying to get glide past players and obviously progress up the field. However, look, there are some good defensive numbers there. His tackles is in the 96th percentile and his pressures are 87th percentile. Other defensive areas like his interceptions being in the 9th blocks, 37th, clearances, 12th, 47th for aerial duels, aerial wins. While again, that doesn't hand itself to being a defensive midfielder. He hasn't really this season played as much a defensive midfielder. So, look, when you drop him into a more defensive midfielder role, their numbers will essentially go up. But look, that pressures and tackles suggests he can play as a defensive midfielder in that role next to Paul Pogba. Yes, I think, unlike a Declan Rice and an Ndidi, he would need more help from a Paul Pogba defensively, more similarly to what we saw this season with Fred and McTominay. However, I think as time will go on, that help needed will come less and less as he grows and matures as a player. Because, like I said, he's only 18 at the moment. He will grow and become better in the role of a defensive midfielder if we sign him, and that's what we decide to mould him into. Now, like I said, I think Kamavinga is the most likely signing for us. I think he's at the most affordable price at around £30 million. We know Manchester United are already interested in him. Like I said, I think he has everything it takes to become a world-class defensive midfielder. I think we have players like Nemanja Matic and Michael Carrick at the club or around the club to help mould him into that. It's just, will we get this type of deal done? I think it's a smart move, regardless of if we play him as a defensive midfielder or not. Because, like I said, he's one of the hottest up-and-coming prospects in French football. I think, regardless, you get him done. Now, I just want to give a few honourable mentions. First one goes to João Palhinha. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Obviously, if you're on TikTok and you watch FC Wonder Kids, I believe it is. Obviously, he was a massive, massive fan of João Palhinha. And I think at the Euros, when he came on and starting a few games, at the latter stage of Portugal's run, I think he was very impressive. He had a very good year for Sporting Lisbon. Obviously, a former teammate of Bruno Fernandes. So, obviously, there's instantly a connection there. Transfermarkt has him valued at around £19 million. You'd probably have to spend a little bit more, but I think he will probably be the cheapest option. Maybe Kamavinga slightly cheaper, but he will be certainly cheaper than a Declan Rice or Wilfred Ndidi. And the two other honourable mentions, the first one being Yves Bissouma. Now, Yves Bissouma is valued at around £23 million according to Transfermarkt. Again, I think you'll be paying closer to 35 to 40 million pounds for Bissouma. I think he's been very, very impressive for Brighton over the last year or so. And I think he's a fantastic player. I think I've been very impressed with him whenever he's played for Brighton against Manchester United. Whenever I watch Brighton play. And look, would you take Yves Bissouma? I certainly would. And then the last one. Look, I think this player is massively overrated and overhyped, and that is Ruben Neves. Is he a good player? Yes. But I do think he's slightly overrated, and for the price we're going to be having to pay for him, I wouldn't be going nowhere near him. Transfermarkt has him valued at around £41 million. For me, you're going to be paying closer to 60 to 70, and at that sort of price, especially that sort of price, why not pay an extra 10 million or so and get a Ndidi and get a Rice who are better than a Ruben Neves? It's simple as that. Is Ruben Neves a bad player? Of course he's not. But I don't think he is this amazing top player that a lot of people think he is. I don't think he solves loads of our problems. I don't think he's better than Palhinha. I don't think he's better than Rice and Ndidi. Maybe he's better in that role than a Bissouma. But I wouldn't say for 100% he is. And Palhinha, obviously, played over him at the Euros. So, he's definitely not better than Palhinha. And, I mean, Kamavinga, maybe at the moment, or probably is. But I think with Kamavinga, not only are you buying someone now, you're buying his future as well. Well, like I said, Kamavinga's 18. You can, if you get him on the right sort of contract and you look after him, you build a squad that he wants to be part of, you could have him for over 10, 15 years as our defensive midfielder. I just don't see why you would ever sign a Ruben Neves. The only reason I'm putting him in these honourable mentions is because recently we've been linked to him, so I kind of had to, don't I? Anyway, let me know who you would sign for Manchester United's defensive midfield role down in the comments down below. And like I said, I hope you have all enjoyed. Down in the description, you'll find links to my personal channel, my Twitter, my Instagram, so on and so forth. You know the drill by now. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one in a bit. Peace.